Forster, major winning caddy at long last. Congratulations, first and foremost. We'll come on to that in a little minute, but first of all, big thanks to our friends at Motocaddy who have fixed us up here at Bingley St Ives today. Motocaddy, I think a lot of people know them for the electric trolleys that they've got, industry-leading electric trolleys. They're fantastic. I use one myself, but a lot of people might not be aware that they do rangefinders as well. I'm thinking of the Pro 3000, for example. You've worked with the brand for a while.
Yep.
I'm interested, has the rangefinders helped you do your job better or differently since you've started using them?
Let me tell you one story. I was caddying for Seve Ballesteros at Sun City in South Africa, 1993, maybe 94, and it was pre-days of the rangefinder. So obviously now you get on a tee, it was down through jungle, over water, and it would have been bang, 2 seconds, it would tell you it was 173 yards, for example. That day, I used to have a box attached to my belt that pulled out string. And as it pulled out string, it turned over a cog and 1, 2, 3, 4. Had to tie it to the back of the tee on a tee peg, abseil down the cliff, through the jungle, things rustling everywhere, get this string through the jungle, out, over the water to the green, and then snipped it off, measured it off with my yardage wheel, as you used to do. Got my yardage, 173, whatever. It took me 1 hour, 15 minutes to get 1 yardage, and I found out the next day I walked through a cobra pit full of snakes, like.
Oh, you're joking.
I could have been dead, like, so. But at least I got the right yardage.
The things you did for Seve.
I don't even know if they played that tee that week. It took me about 10 hours to get round.
Oh my goodness. So fair to say your rangefinder makes a difference.
Yeah, it's a godsend, yeah.
Yeah, you see them now on tour a lot more. When I go out now, I watch the caddies in practice, and you know, when you're walking the course, it seems like every caddy these days has one of them. I mean, they clearly are just worth their weight in gold, these devices.
Absolutely, it saves you so much time. You know, I used to walk around with my yardage wheel, and I used to draw my own book as I went along, and I was regarded as a little Picasso back in the day. Like, you know, I always felt as though I had a bit of advantage over other guys because I really did draw a good book and do my homework properly. But now you can just buy a book that everybody gets the same information. So, and with the rangefinders, it's so quick. You can skip around the course, checking a few things, and you can be around in 3 hours as opposed to 7, 8, 9 hours of whatever it used to take me. So it's a big difference, yeah.
Absolutely. I suspect it's going to come in handy in a few days' time, if you like, at the Old Course, 150th Open, right around the corner. Now that's a golf course you know probably better than most. You've walked it more than most, that's for certain. What are your feelings about it? Because, you know, opinion's split, isn't it? Some people love it, some people hate it. Where do you stand, Billy?
The Old Course is unique, is the only word. And I got asked, can you describe how you play the golf course? Well, no, I can't, because it's so unique, and the wind direction, the strength of the wind, the pin positions, you can play a hole 4 or 5 different ways on any given day. So there's no particular route or plan. You know, and next Monday, before the Open starts, I'm going to go out with Matt Fitzpatrick with alignment 6 and lasers, obviously, and I'm going to spend quite a few hours, and I'm going to give him my 30 or 40 years experience of saying, well, you know, if the wind's here and it's actually blowing 30 miles an hour, you cannot carry that bunker at 245 yards, which sounds amazing, you know, because they all bomb it 300 plus now. But yeah. I'll tell you what, that 12th hole, for example, it's got cross bunkers at 245, and if you get that strong, cold wind, you can't carry it. So you have to knuckleball something down the right, maybe into the rough, and hit a little chip and run it. And the next hole, the 13th hole with the middle bunkers, you can hit a 3-iron down the right, downwind one day, and maybe a 9-iron. The next day, it's howling into the wind out the left. You've got to bang it left onto the other fairway, which I think is the 6th fairway, and you can hit a 3-wood second shot. It plays so different. So we're going to go around every hole, and we'll discuss where the wind might be and how it'll play, and I'll draw on that experience to say, well, we need to get numbers on this, and we need to pick particular lines off the tee. We need to hit on that church steeple, for example, or whatever. That's the middle of the fairway at 250 yards or 280 yards or 330 yards, whatever the wind direction is going to be. You need to get particular targets, so it'll be very important, and I'm looking forward to the challenge. So the one thing I worry about the Old Course for me personally, and this is where my argument lies because I'm old school. I hate how far the ball goes. I hate how forgiving the club faces are. And you get somebody like a DJ or Bryson DeChambeau, and there's actually 9 par 4s you could drive at St Andrews on any given day with the right conditions. That worries me. You know, if you get really behind it, is somebody going to shoot 59?
Would that be a bad thing if they did, in your opinion?
I think it'd be a horrible thing, in my opinion. Yeah, and I'm hearing whispers that finally the RNA and the USGA are going to do something about the golf ball. I'll believe it when I see it. Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player have moaned about it for at least 25, 30 years now. I moan about it all the time. So not that my opinion matters, but it is time that something gave way and see a bit of common sense, and maybe if the ball just spins a bit more and it goes offline more like it used to do, because now the wind doesn't affect the golf ball like it used to do back in the day, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah,
exactly. The green complex is there as well. I mean, my goodness. I remember speaking to one of the greenkeepers and he said the 5th green alone takes an hour to hand cut because it's just that big. Yeah. I mean, what's it like from a caddie's point of view, trying to give your player the right advice, the right line? I mean, where do you even start with those greens?
Well, the 5th hole, for example, like you just said, I mean, it can be a case of you might drive it in the bunkers off the tee down the right, which is pretty unforgivable because you've got 100 yards to the left. But maybe you chop it out and then you give a yardage, right? You've got 140 yards to the front and he's reaching for a 7-iron and the pin's 88 on. It's like, all of a sudden, it's like a 4-iron. It was like, I mean, the greens are so huge and shared, and obviously the fairways are all shared, so people are banging it left onto another fairway, banging it onto that green to a different pin, and you're having to wait for traffic all the time on different fairways, and you can end up with 4 or 5 groups on the 5th tee, for example, and it's a 6-hour round all day long at the Open. It can be tedious, but you have to stay focused and disciplined and get on with it and just accept it's going to be a really long day out there.
Yeah. Take me on to the first hole. Your player, you know, whether it's Matt or Lee down the years or Darren, whoever it might be, I think everyone feels nerves standing on the first tee. I mean, it should be no nerves. It's 150 yards wide, for goodness sake, but that place, that particular spot of ground does something to people, doesn't it?
Yeah, the first and the 18th. I think actually, I remember Ken Brown doing it last time. I think it's 144 yards wide. If you pick a tee, you've got a 70-yard dispersion. It should not be a problem whatsoever. Lee Westwood, one of the best drivers of the golf ball that I've witnessed in my 40 years of being out there, stood on the 2015 Open, hit a 3-wood off the tee, and his backside were touching the fence left on the road down the 18th, playing his second shot, and he had to cut because he couldn't go at the green because of the fence. We thought it was out of bounds. He hit a provisional ball.
Is that just nerves?
It can only be nerves with Westy that day because I've never seen him hit a golf shot like that. But it does do that. I've been there many a time. Again, as simple as it is, the 18th tee shot, I always say, whoever I'm caddy for, just focus on the clock on the clubhouse because that is pretty much left of the steps, which is left of the green. Because if you get tempted to drive the green, you know, if you hit a cut, you're out of bounds. And like I said, it's 144 yards, so they're out of bounds on the other side. So it's unforgivable, but I've seen it done so many times over the years. I'd be just spewing if it were my man that did it. So you have to always reassure them, no, just focus on what you're doing, hit it at the clock, you know. But you know, it can be done.
Exactly, and when it comes to teeing off, try and not watch any videos of Ian Baker Finch because, well, you'd be up all night worrying if you were to watch that particular clip. You've seen many Opens at St Andrews, you've worked at many Opens at St Andrews. You were there in '84 when Seve did what he did. The picture's just over there on the wall. You were just a group or two behind, am I right in saying? Take me back from your perspective what that incredible moment was like.
Yeah, well, I've been to every Open Championship since 1975 at Carnoustie when Tom Watson won his first one. The first Open I actually caddied was 1984, the Open at St Andrews. I was caddying for Hugh Baiocchi from South Africa. And on Sunday he was the 3rd last match playing with Lanny Wadkins. The 2nd last match was Bernard Langer and Seve. And the last match was Tom Watson and Ian Baker Finch. So, yeah, I was caddying for the group in front of the most iconic moment in Open history, certainly at St Andrews with Seve's punch in the air on the last green. And I was literally just off the last green at the Scorers Hut when it all happened. So, yeah, it's a long time ago. It's coming up for 40 years, but, you know, you'd love to be there doing it yourself one day, or the player you're working for, obviously, have that opportunity.
What is it about St Andrews that brings the best out in players like Seve, like Tiger, for example, who's won there twice? You think of Jack with his couple of wins there. Why does the cream seem to rise at St Andrews?
Shot making, controlling your ball flight. Obviously, it can get unbelievably windy there, and just experience of, it's the home of golf, the experience, the excitement of the place, and the pressure of the place. It's Augusta-ish, because it means so much to players to play at an Open Championship is fantastic, but for players to go and play an Open Championship at St Andrews, it has an extra little bit of value to it, and it's pressure and certainly shot making and controlling your ball flight and them strong wins. Extra
special this year, 150th Open Championship. There's a lot of buzz around it. Do you buy into that buzz? Do you get a sense of anticipation as the days and weeks leading up get closer and closer? Is it different in that way?
Not so much. To me, it's
You've been there and done that, haven't you?
I'm very fortunate that I've obviously just come off winning the US Open with Fitz, which is an unbelievable experience. But it was almost like there was no excitement, no like yes, get in there. It was just so much relief.
Yeah.
And it almost gives me an added incentive to go to St Andrews and just try and do it all again, because it's the one tournament that means the world to me. Gone close on so many occasions. I was caddying for Thomas Bjorn, the famous day that he left in that bunker on the 16th a couple of times, and Lee Westwood three-putted the last at Turnberry in 2009. Darren Clark was leading and shanked it off the second tee at Troon, and it's happened so many times that it's been stolen away, and I just hope I might get one last throw of the dice and kick one off the line in an Open Championship. It means the world to me, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're going in there with the form player in the world right now, and as I said, congratulations on the win just a couple of weeks ago. Look at your beaming just at the mere mention of it. I mean, what an incredible performance from Fitz in that final round. The pair of you seemed very relaxed, and I know that you had the experience at USPGA just the month before. How did that experience of being in the mix, how did that benefit Fitz going into the US Open?
I think, if you look back to last October, he won at Valderrama. And if you look at his finishes from that point to the US Open, it's incredible. Take Scotty Scheffler out of the equation, that obviously won 4 times this year. He's arguably the most consistent golfer in the world. He's had so many top 10 finishes, seconds, thirds, fifths, eighths, whatever. There's probably 2 or 3 tournaments where he's had the bad side of the draw as well. I'd have to say that he's been incredible this year. And the PGA was, I look back at it, and he probably rushed a couple of things and maybe wasn't 100% in his own mind clear about what he was doing, which I know he was disappointed. He didn't have his A game that day. I know he didn't. He missed 6 fairways, and you get in that Bermuda wispy flying rough, and you can't control the ball as much as you're trying to allow for flyers. It was hard work.
Yeah.
But it still had a chance come 17. If he'd have birdied 17, he'd have been in the playoff. Drivable par 4, and he hooked a 3-wood 30 yards, which was disappointing, and he made bogey, which ultimately cost him the tournament. But yeah, he'd drawn that experience, and I'd have to say, to hit 17 out of 18 greens on a Sunday,
isn't it?
On a very difficult US Open golf course, is testament to how much he's improved. His ball striking is immense. He's driving it 20 yards further. He's chipping cack-handed, which Seve would be spinning in his grave looking at him chip like that. But he's been in every category on the PGA Tour. He's right up there in every category. So he's a really strong player, and he's come a long way. But he'll draw on that experience from the PGA. He'll obviously draw the confidence from the US Open.
Yeah.
And I called it a few weeks ago. I did a podcast for Wayne Riley and Sarah Sturck, and I said, no, his time's coming, and it could well be the US Open.
Lo and behold.
Sure enough it was, but I mean, I think he's going to go on to big things. I mean, when I first started working for him 4 years ago, there was like 10 or 12 people around the table talking, team meeting as such, and Pete Cowan asked the question, so what's your goals? And he said, I want to be number one in the world. I'm like, you what? I'm like, no chance, pal. But I sit here today now going, actually every chance, pal.
Yeah, it's not that far away.
Oh, he's come on that much. But length is massive.
Well. Yeah.
But not only is it length, he's still got the accuracy to go with it, and his scrambling's great, and he always puts well.
Yeah.
He actually didn't put well the last 2 or 3 weeks, you know, and he's had a chance to win 2 or 3 times and won the US Open, missing 3 or 4 4-footers on Sunday. So
you say driving accurately, but I'm sorry to do this. I'm going to take you back to the 18th tee, 72nd hole at Brookline.
Yep.
Now, I know that the two of you didn't necessarily see eye to eye in terms of the strategy for that hole all week, but finally, Matt listened to you, went with 3-wood instead of driver, is that right?
Yeah.
And tugged it into the bunker. What is going through your mind at that point?
Well, listen, like I said, you've been that close on so many occasions to winning major championships, and it was funny. We started laughing because at 17th he had a 10 or 12 foot putt to go 2 shots clear, and he'd rammed a few past all day, like 3-putted. I'm like, don't do it again, like, you know. And he dribbled it down to the hole like that, and I just started laughing, and he started laughing because I'd said, well, at least you didn't knock it 5 foot past, you clumsy little beep, you know. So we started laughing. So he was in a good frame of mind going to the 18th tee, but I knew walking to that last tee, this is going to be a challenging conversation, because at the start of the week, I said, Matt, you need to hit this 280 yards off the tee. It's the widest bit of the fairway. It's before you get to the angle of the slight dogleg, but if you hit a driver straight down the middle, it's like 310 yards to run out. Well, you're going to run out in the rough, and then you can't control the ball. Is it going to finish in the bunker shot where, you know, the pin was cut close to the front of the green, so you couldn't hit the bunker shot close, really. And then if you get a flyer, then you end up making burgers in the kitchen in the clubhouse out of bounds. So I said, please, Matt, it's a 3-wood. And he went, and he's doing all his homework, pacing it off. No, I like driver because, you know, it's my straightest club in my bag, and I can get it past this angle here. And I'm like, I didn't agree with him all week. And I actually said to him before this tournament started, I said, right, let's get this clear. And when you get to this 18th tee, I want you 100% convinced this is what we're doing. None of this hindsight golf, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that. I want you 100% convinced and clear in your own mind, this is what we're doing. Right, okay. So he hit driver the first 3 days, made 2 bogeys and a par. So I'm walking to that 18th tee on Sunday thinking, I know I'm going to tell him we hit 3-wood. And we get to the tee and he's getting his hand on the driver and said, Matt, listen, because I'm just thinking, this could be one of your last chances you ever have. Not him, me personally. I'm thinking, I might only have 2 or 3 years left. That's 9 majors. This is going to be one of my last chances. I'm not going to let this go past, you know. I said, Matt, please. I said, it's a 3-wood and it's a 9-iron. That's the most it is. Widest bit of the fairway, just hit the fairway. It's a 3-wood. 9-iron max. All right, so it's a 3-wood. And it's one of those moments, a bit like Thomas Bjorn at Sandwich, please just do this. And the ball's in the air and you just go, oh, not again. And he's hooked it in the bunker. But now the crowd, we get the crowds all now flood the fairway. So you're fighting your way through the crowd. Feels like it's taking 10 minutes to get to the fairway. And as soon as I got through the crowd, I could see the ball right under the lip, and then my heart just sunk. I thought, oh no, here we go again. But the more I got to the ball, the more sort of like left of the island of the bunker, I thought, I might have half a shot here. And I did something I've never done in 40 years of caddying. Actually, I used to plumb bob putts, but I was actually plumb bobbing the lip of the bunker, like a foot left of it. And I thought, no, you can hit it on that tree. There was like a floodlight on the clubhouse with the tree, which was like 2 or 3 yards inside the left edge of the green, but the pin was on the right. So it was like maybe a good 18 yards left of the hole. I said, no, I said, you're going to avoid this slope here if you hit on that tree with the floodlight, and just hit a good strong cut. And it was like 161 yards or something. Good strong cut with a 9-iron. Okay, right, fair enough. Yeah, I like that. And I picked the bag up and walked away. And Matt plays that quick. Just as I turned round, he'd already hit it. And I was looking at it, and as the ball's in the air, I'm like, your gut feeling's just screaming at you. What a golf shot this is.
Yeah,
you just know. In the air, I'm just thinking, first time all week, I'm thinking, right, get down. Because obviously if it went in the bunker short, it was going to be a tough up and down, I thought. There was quite a bit of a backstop at the back of the green, very sloped, so it'd always run back to the hole. So, yeah, but in the air, I knew it was good, and then the most beautiful sound in the world is when a few thousand people start clapping. You're thinking, thank God for that, like, you know. But obviously, he gets to the green and misses the putt, and I'm just stood at the side of him, and you're just thinking, please do me a favour for once,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah.
And as I wasn't Will's put out. Well, I was. I'm talking absolute rubbish there, but I was looking at
He's
it.
a nice guy, Will
What a
Zalatoris,
lovely
but
man.
you
What a
at
lovely
that
man.
point in time, he's
Absolute-
public enemy number one for you,
Absolute
isn't he?
class gentleman, and he was wonderful. And as the ball's getting close to the hole, I'm just saying to Matt, prepare yourself for another 3 holes. You know, get your mindset ready for a playoff. And then I heard the groans and the ball's still there. It's still above ground. I'm like, and that's when I just put my head in my hands, like, I don't believe it. Finally, that gorilla's got off my back. I can feel it, just like pure relief. And Fitz didn't know what to say because she's looking at me with my head in my hands. And then he just come across and said, Billy, we've just won a major. And then, you know, it's like, thank God for that. It was brilliant. Yeah, fantastic.
Incredible. Do you remember much of the celebrations?
Funnily enough, I do. When you
Yeah.
have those big highs, it's like, you know, I remember drinking about 5 bottles of Heineken very quickly, and then they'd run out in the clubhouse. So I found an ice cold bottle of Dom Perignon, which I managed to open. Didn't spill a drop.
Well
I
done.
wasn't spraying it around.
Yeah.
Not wasting that.
No
300
chance.
quid a bottle, and just a good third of a bottle of that straight down, which, and then we stayed there for a couple of hours, and then went back to Fitz's house till the early hours. So yeah, it was very, very nice.
We're a few weeks removed from it now. Has it sunk in?
You know, it's one of those things. I spoke to Fitz and he said, "Oh, Billy, this is 1,000 times better than I ever imagined." And I'm thinking, well, you know, it's. I don't know why. It's like maybe it hasn't sunk in because it's just because I went on holiday the next day for a week and got away from it all. I haven't watched it all back, so I just feel like it was just another day, and I just can't wait for St Andrews. I haven't really had time to digest it.
Well, that's it.
I just want to move on and be focused and ready for the one tournament that means the world to me. So
Yeah. So let's finish up there. He has gone in there as the most recent major champion. Is it a course that you think is going to suit him? And can he? It's so rare to win a major. It's even rarer to win back to back. Can he do it?
of course he can. Yeah, I mean, I look at who was your last winner? Zach Johnson.
Not the longest.
Not long at all. Like, but it's about discipline, a good mindset. You know, good wedge player, Zach. You know, and if he can roll a few putts in at St Andrews, you know, the greens are very subtle, tough to read, but if Fitz can get on and roll with the putter, because he hasn't putted his best the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's only a matter of time before he starts rolling quite a few in, and, you know, the confidence he's going to draw from the US Open, I'm sure he'll be in the shake-up again, yeah.
London buses, that's what you're after.
Absolutely. Big
Brilliant.
red ones, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Billy, thank you so much.
Pleasure, mate.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Well done again.